as a childhood trauma has always been enveloped into a number of issues. And so our very first episode, or our very first topic, we're going to envelop, or rather we want to open this diagnosis of abandonment as a childhood trauma into different facets. So I want us to start with the very first one, which is father wounds in men. Father wounds in men, of course, as an adult, it will always show up as lack of self-esteem or low self-esteem. That is what is generally known as lack of confidence. And it will also sometimes come out as workaholics. It will also sometimes comes out as controlling people. It will also sometimes comes out as, unsatisfied person. You find yourself sometimes hoarding, and when you hoard, it means you never get enough of what you want. Now let us look at it in this concept. So there's this child growing up in a rather normal home setup, and that is probably father, mother, and kids, or three. Let's say in this case there are three children. So when there are three children, the father is always out there looking for ways that the family would survive. And that in this case, the father is a normal employee who comes home maybe 7 in the night or 8 p.m. in the evening. But there's a trait that I want us to identify in this particular dad. So the dad is just a very normal dad, also having come from a family where the father was also not always there physically or sometimes emotionally. But let's focus much on the emotional aspect, because sometimes we have these fathers at home, but again, they're not available emotionally. So when do these child start to feel out of place? Now, when the child is constantly criticized, especially by the father, when the other siblings are doing well, and the father is constantly reminding, let's say, John, perform like your sister Mary. You're not performing like Yvonne. You're not performing like so and so. So see that constant criticism. You are a boy. You shouldn't be doing that. Your sisters should be taking care of your sisters. You should be doing this. You should be doing that. The concept of constant criticism, the concept of constant being reminded that you are a boy, you are a man. Now, this boy subconsciously starts dissociating with his emotions. The separation starts building in. So as the separations continues to build in, this boy now stops feeling pain, because when you're told this, not to do this, always or constantly reminded that you are a boy and you're not supposed to cry, you are a boy, you're not supposed to eat this, your sisters are supposed to eat this. You're also reminded that you should be performing better like your other brother, or your other siblings. This creates in this boy sense of low self-worth. So when they get to the point where they feel low self-worth, then this boy will start working hard, not in a good space, but this boy will look for ways. Remember, this is happening subconsciously. This boy will look for ways to impress the father. So while doing this, they will go over and above to do things to just get the acknowledgement, the accolades from the dad, to just say, my son, you did great. My son, you did good. My son, wow. The moment they don't get this, in as much as they put a lot of effort in it, they start feeling unappreciated. So when they grow up, by looking at it from the side of controlling, when they grow up, because these children, his body remembers so well how it feels to not be appreciated, how it feels to be alienated, how it feels to be reminded of how useless, worthless he is. So this child, now in a man's body, will meet a woman or will go to a workplace. His personality will be that of he's supposed to be listened to. Those people that people call them, control freaks, or some descriptions towards that direction. So they become very strong. Actually, let me call it strong-willed, though it's not a very strong-willed on the positive spectrum. So they become strong-willed because they still want to show the world. Now, in this case, their father, subconsciously or unknowingly, they want to show their father that, you see, Dad, I've done this. You see, Dad, I'm able to do this. So after all, I'm not good for nothing. When they marry, they tend to assert authority. They become authoritarians. They are not the people that are supposed to be told or supposed to be talked down on a particular situation, because to them, they still feel that their father, quote and say, is still regarding them as no good, or rather, regarding them as good for nothing. So that is the spectrum of control. Now, the spectrum of self-esteem, this man might be 45 years of age, but his self-esteem is always dependable. When he's around his peers, that he feels like, if they're in the same level, this man will feel like he's on top of it. But when he approaches people who are slightly above him, either in age, in authority, or by just physiques or look, that will automatically remind him of his father. And what happens when that happens? This guy immediately, his inner child, his inner boy runs into hiding, because his body remembers again that he has once been very vulnerable in front of his dad. And this man might not be easy to love, because remember, when you as a person are not able to embrace vulnerability, which is when you give in, you give up, you say, okay, you hand over something. So this man is not the kind to easily fall in love, because vulnerability is when you say, I can receive or I can give. But this man cannot easily be vulnerable. In fact, being vulnerable for him will feel like being weak. And this man is not going to allow himself to be weak again. Because remember, he had dissociated himself with the emotions, with the wordings that he was told them. So when he dissociated himself from those things, there's nothing that is going to allow him go through that situation again. So the question is, how do you get to understand when your partner or you as a man has father wounds? Your relationship with your dad is very key in this space. Could be your biological dad, or could be your very first caregiver. How did they talk to you? How did they respond to you? Were you allowed to express your pain? Were you allowed to speak out your mind? Were you allowed to engage within the community? Was there that kind of freedom? Because most of men nowadays are workaholics, and most families break because men are workaholic and they're still subconsciously trying to prove to their fathers in absentia that, Dad, I'm not good for nothing after all. So once you're able to establish all this, once you're able to understand all this, once you're able to get all these things into perspective, then it will be easy for you to understand where your main problem is coming from. Do you sometimes just feel like your wife is irritating or your partner is irritating? Do you sometimes sit and don't know why you work for long and you just find yourself working and working and working? Do you sometimes achieve so much, but again, you still feel some kind of emptiness from within? Do you sometimes find yourself doing so much and resting is not just so easy for you? When you think of resting, it feels like you're being killed. It feels like that's a death sentence. Do you ever stop to, to get back to yourself? What are your self-care kind of routine? Because again, some ended up being addicts because they still want to control, or rather they still want to assert to their fathers in absentia, or rather subconsciously, that they're still men. Some ended up being sex addicts, some ended up being drug addicts, and some are just super duper angry people. Where are you as a man? Where are you as a partner? And to parents, these are some things that are so important, especially when you're raising your son. It is very important to let sons be sons and not treating sons like men. So, how do you go about this? It is also very important sometimes to seek therapy, especially from a holistic therapy if you can access one, because with that, they'll be able to help you unearth and uproot these things from the very day they happen. And that is traveling back to your inner child and finding out, what did this boy feel? How did this boy react? How was this boy feeling? The feeling of that boy at that particular time is what is very, very important. But if you look at the world from the lenses of your grown-up self now and put it on that child's lenses, then we are not helping the child. So for us to be able to start working on that, then it means that we have to understand the angle in which that child saw the world from. So we have to go back to that age, especially the ages of 0 to 7 years. Those are very, very important ages in a development of a child. So the task is on you.